Listen to me, God's plan is not flawed, it's not broken, it's not weak. The problem is never with his plan. The problem is with how we respond to it. We get in our own way. We make choices that pull us off course. We let emotions, distractions, and doubt take control. And before we know it, we're wondering why we're stuck, why we're lost, why we feel so far from the purpose we know is inside of us. It's not that God isn't speaking. It's not that he's not moving. It's that we're not listening. We're not following. We're not trusting. And that's the real issue. Trust. See, it's easy to say we trust God's plan when things are going smoothly. When the doors are opening, when the opportunities are flowing, when life is looking exactly how we imagined it, we're all about God's plan. Thank you, God. You're so good. But the moment things don't go the way we expected, the moment the door closes, the moment we hit resistance, suddenly we start questioning everything. God, are you even there? Did I hear you wrong? Maybe I should just do my own thing. And that's exactly where we mess up. That's exactly where we start rewriting the story he already wrote for us. Instead of trusting the process, we take the pen out of his hand and try to write a new version, a version where we're in control, where we don't have to wait, where we don't have to struggle. But let me tell you something. When you take control away from God, all you do is create detours, delays, and disasters. How many times have you tried to force something to happen only to regret it later? You rushed into a relationship that God never ordained. You took a job because it looked good on paper, but now you're miserable. You tried to build something on your own strength, and now it's falling apart. Why? Because you didn't trust the plan. You saw an obstacle and assumed it was a dead end, but what if it was just a redirection? What if God was blocking that path because he had something better? But instead of waiting, instead of trusting, you tried to break down a door he never meant for you to walk through. See, you don't have to understand everything for it to be right. You just have to follow. You just have to believe that if God said he has a plan for you, then nothing, no mistake, no failure, no missed opportunity can cancel what he has already spoken over your life. But you have to stop sabotaging it. You have to stop delaying your own destiny with doubt and disobedience. Let me make this real for you. Imagine a GPS. When you type in a destination, the GPS already knows the way. It already calculated the best route to get you there. But what happens when you ignore the directions? What happens when you decide, I think I know a shortcut? You get lost. You hit traffic. You waste time. And eventually, what should have taken 30 minutes now takes 3 hours. That's what happens when you don't follow God's plan. You take unnecessary detours, you add unnecessary struggles, and instead of getting there efficiently, you take the long, painful road because you thought you knew better. And let's talk about that. Some of you think you know better than God. You wouldn't say it out loud, but your actions show it. He says, wait, but you say, now. He says, trust, but you say, I need proof. He says, let it go, but you say, but I want it. You keep wrestling with a God who already wrote the story, and every time you refuse to follow his lead, you're not just delaying your destiny, you're damaging yourself in the process. You ever see a kid try to put together a puzzle? At first, they're excited. They look at the box, they see the picture, and they think, I got this. But then they start forcing pieces where they don't belong. They shove a piece into the wrong spot, thinking this should fit. But no matter how hard they push, no matter how much they twist it, the piece was never meant to go there. That's what we do with our lives. We try to force things that were never meant for us. We force relationships. We force careers. We force plans that look good but aren't God's good. And then we wonder why we feel stuck. We wonder why we feel drained, frustrated, empty. It's because we're holding on to the wrong pieces. But here's the good news. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to keep making the same mistakes. You can decide right now to surrender. You can decide right now to trust the plan even when you don't see the full picture. Because let me tell you something. God doesn't need you to see the whole path. He just needs you to take the next step. And that's where faith comes in. Faith is not about having all the answers. Faith is about moving forward even when you don't. Faith is about saying, God, I don't know where this is leading, but I trust you know what you're doing. Faith is about following the plan even when it doesn't make sense, even when it doesn't feel good, even when you're tempted to quit. Because let me tell you, when you trust his plan, you will never be disappointed. You might not always understand it. You might not always like the process. But when you look back, when you see how everything connected, you'll realize that every detour, every delay, every difficult moment was working together for your good. So stop messing it up. Stop letting fear talk you out of what God already confirmed. Stop letting your emotions dictate your obedience. Stop trying to rewrite a plan that's already perfect, because the sooner you surrender, the sooner you step into everything he has prepared for you. It's time to stop resisting and start trusting. Let God be God. You're frustrated. You're tired. You're looking at your life and you're thinking, man, why hasn't it happened yet? You've been grinding. You've been praying. You've been putting in the work, but it feels like you're stuck in the same place. And now doubt is creeping in. Now you're starting to wonder, did I hear God wrong? Did I miss my chance? Maybe this just isn't for me. But let me tell you something. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean God said no. Delay is not denial. The fact that you don't see it right now doesn't mean it's not coming. But here's the real question. Can you keep believing when nothing is moving? Can you keep trusting when everything in you wants to quit? Can you still walk in faith when it looks like God is silent? See, we have a problem with waiting. We live in a world that tells us everything has to happen now. Fast food, instant streaming, overnight shipping. We're conditioned to believe that if something doesn't happen immediately, something must be wrong. But that's not how God works. God is not Amazon Prime. He's not delivering your dreams in 2 days just because you prayed about it. His timing is not based on your impatience. It's based on your preparation. And if you're still waiting, it's because there's something in you that needs to be ready before you step into the promise. You ever seen a kid begging their parents for the keys to the car? They're so sure they're ready to drive. They're so convinced they can handle it. But the parent knows better. The parent knows that if they hand over those keys too soon, that child will wreck everything. And some of you, listen to me, some of you are begging God for something you are not ready for. You think you're ready. You think you can handle it. But God sees what you can't. He sees the character flaws that will make you fumble the blessing. He sees the immaturity that will turn the opportunity into a disaster. So he's not saying no. He's saying not yet. But instead of trusting him, what do? We start doubting. We start comparing. We start looking at everybody else's life, thinking, man, why is it happening for them and not me? We get jealous. We get bitter. We start thinking that God forgot about us. But let me remind you, what's for you is for you. Nobody can take what God has set aside for you. Nobody can block what he has already written in your destiny. So stop looking at somebody else's timeline and trust your process. You ever seen an oak tree? That thing grows slow. It doesn't shoot up overnight. It takes years, decades. But when it's fully grown, it's massive. It's unshakable. Now compare that to grass. Grass grows fast. You water it, you see results in a few days. But guess what? It's weak. It gets cut down just as fast as it grew. Some of you are out here mad because your growth doesn't look like somebody else's. But do you want to be grass or do you want to be an oak tree? Do you want something that looks good for a moment? Or do you want something that's built to last? Because that's the thing. Quick success isn't always real success. Anything that comes easy is also easy to lose. But what God is building in you is meant to stand the test of time. He's making sure that when you get to your promise, you have the strength, the wisdom, and the foundation to handle it. He's developing you so that when you step into your blessing, you don't just visit it, you live in it. But some of y'all don't want to wait. You think God is taking too long, so you start taking shortcuts. You start cutting corners. You start forcing doors open that weren't meant for you. And let me tell you, any door you force open, you will have to fight to keep open. Any blessing you manipulate your way into, you will struggle to maintain. Why? Because you weren't supposed to be there yet. Think about this. Have you ever seen somebody get an opportunity too soon and completely mess it up? An athlete who gets drafted young but doesn't have the discipline to stay at the top a business owner who scales too fast and loses everything because they weren't ready, a person who rushes into marriage thinking it will complete them only to realize they never did the inner work first. That's what happens when you run ahead of God. You step into something you prayed for, but because you didn't wait for the right time, it becomes a burden instead of a blessing. You don't want to live like that. You don't want to spend your life trying to hold on to something you were never prepared for in the first place. You want to step into your blessing fully equipped, fully mature, fully ready. So if you're still waiting, don't get discouraged. Get prepared. Because here's the truth. God is not withholding from you. He's protecting you. He's making sure that when you walk into your next season, nothing and no one can take it from you. He's making sure that when you step into the room, you don't just take up space, you own it. He's making sure that when you finally get what you've been praying for, you have the wisdom and discipline to sustain it. So stop doubting. Stop complaining. Stop questioning whether he's forgotten about you. God hasn't forgotten about you. He's preparing you. And when it's time, when the moment is right, when everything is in alignment, you won't have to force it. You won't have to beg for it. You won't have to manipulate your way into it. It will be yours. But until then, trust the process. Fear is killing your destiny. Fear is robbing you of what's already yours. You've been praying, you've been fasting, you've been asking God to open doors, and the crazy part, he already did. But you won't walk through them because you're scared. Scared of failing, scared of what people will say, scared you're not good enough, scared that maybe, just maybe, you heard God wrong. Let me ask you something. How long are you going to let fear run your life? How long are you going to keep playing small when you were created for something bigger? You keep saying, I'm waiting on God. No, you're not. God is waiting on you. The door is open, but you refuse to walk through it. He gave you the vision, but you won't act on it. He put the dream in your heart, but you keep looking for excuses instead of looking for a way. And I get it. Fear is real. I'm not standing here telling you to pretend like you don't feel it. I'm telling you to move anyway. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for fear to disappear. It's not going anywhere. Fear doesn't leave before the breakthrough. It shows up right before it. It's an indicator that you're on the verge of something big. That's why every time you're about to step up, fear tries to step in. It wants to keep you in the same cycle, the same comfort zone, the same level. Because as long as fear controls you, you can never step into what God has for you. You know what's crazy? Some of you are more comfortable in misery than in faith. You would rather stay in a situation that drains you, that limits you, that keeps you small just because it's familiar, just because it's safe. But let me ask you, is that really living? Is that really what you think God created you for? To survive? To just get by? No, you were made for more than this. But you've got to stop letting fear make your decisions. Look at the Bible. Every great move of God started with somebody who was scared but did it anyway. Moses was scared, Gideon was scared, Esther was scared, Joshua was scared, but fear didn't stop them because they knew something. Fear is a liar. Fear will tell you that you're not qualified. Fear will tell you that you're not good enough. Fear will tell you that if you try, you'll fail. But what if? What if fear is wrong? What if you actually succeed? What if you are exactly who God says you are? What if you've been holding yourself back from the life he's been trying to give you? You know what separates successful people from the rest? It's not talent. It's not luck. It's not connections. It's courage. They feel the fear and go anyway. They take the leap. They make the move. They trust that if God called them, he will equip them. And that's the difference. Some people let fear be the reason they quit. Others let fear be the reason they go harder. Which one are you? And let's be real. Some of y'all are praying for things you won't even take action on. You're asking for opportunities, but when they show up, you back down. You're asking for elevation, but when it's time to step up, you shrink. You say, God, use me. And then he opens the door and you say, oh, not that door. No, you can't pick and choose how he moves. If you ask him for more, don't be surprised when he pushes you past your comfort zone. You got to make a decision. Are you going to let fear win, or are you going to trust the one who called you? Because if God put it in you, it's because he already gave you everything you need to make it happen. But you got to move. You got to stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop waiting for people to validate you. Stop waiting for fear to disappear. Fear is not the enemy of faith, inaction is. And some of you are sitting on gifts, sitting on ideas, sitting on callings that could change your life and the lives of everyone around you. But you're letting fear silence you. And listen, this isn't just about you. Somebody is waiting on you to step up. Somebody needs what's inside of you. Somebody's breakthrough is tied to your obedience. But as long as you let fear keep you silent, keep you hidden, keep you from moving, you're not just delaying your destiny, you're delaying theirs too. Let me tell you something. When you let fear run your life, you're not just playing small, you're being disobedient. If God gave you an assignment, he expects you to complete it. If he gave you a vision, he expects you to build it. He didn't ask you if you were scared. He didn't ask you if you felt ready. He asked you to trust him. So do you? Do you trust him enough to move even when you're afraid? Because here's what I know. The moment you finally decide to stop letting fear control you, everything shifts. That dream you've been sitting on, it starts taking shape. That opportunity you were too scared to go after, it opens up. That voice in your head that keeps saying, what if I fail? It gets replaced with, what if I fly? You have one life, one shot. You don't get to do this over. So are you really going to let fear steal your purpose? Are you really going to let doubt keep you from what you were created to do? Because let me tell you something. The pain of stepping out is nothing compared to the pain of staying stuck. One day you're going to look back and realize that fear never had any real power. It only had the power you gave. So this is it. No more excuses. No more playing small. No more letting fear call the shots. You already have everything you need inside of you. Now go use it. You keep asking God for more, but you can't even handle what you have right now. You're praying for the next level, but you're not even being faithful with the level you're on. You're asking for promotion, but you're showing up late, cutting corners, and making excuses. You want to be great, but you're treating your assignments like they don't matter. Let me tell you something. How you handle what you have right now is a direct reflection of how you'll handle what's next. You think you're waiting on God, but God is waiting on you to start acting like the person you're asking to become. See, everybody wants the blessing. Everybody wants the opportunity. Everybody wants to be elevated. But are you ready for it? If the opportunity came today, would you even be prepared to handle it? Some of you are praying for doors to open, but if that door open right now, you fumble it. You drop it. Not because you don't have the talent, not because you don't have the calling, but because you never built the discipline to sustain it. It's not just about getting the blessing. It's about being able to keep it. That's the part people don't talk about. You can be gifted and still lose. You can be talented and still fail. Because talent will get you in the room, but discipline is what will keep you there. You think you're ready? Let's talk about that. You asking for more money, but are you managing what you have now? You asking for a bigger platform, but are you serving with excellence where you are? You're asking for a stronger relationship, but have you worked on the parts of you that would destroy it? God is not going to give you something you can't sustain. He's not going to bless you with something that your lack of discipline will tear apart. That's why some doors haven't opened yet. Not because you're not called, not because you're not capable, but because he knows that if he gave it to you now, you wouldn't be able to keep it. Look at David. He was anointed long before he was appointed. He was called long before he was crowned. He knew his destiny, but God didn't put him on the throne immediately. Why? Because there were things he needed to learn first. There was character that needed to be developed first. There were battles he needed to fight in private before he could fight them in public. And some of you are so frustrated with where you are because you think it's beneath you. You think you're better than this season, but this season is your training ground. If you can't be great in private, what makes you think you're ready to be great in public? You want to lead, learn to follow. You want to be trusted with more, be faithful with what you have. Stop looking at what other people have. Stop worrying about why their doors are opening and yours aren't. Their journey is not your journey. Their process is not your process. The fastest way to kill your own purpose is to spend your time comparing it to someone else's. And let's talk about that, because some of you are so distracted by what everybody else is doing that you can't even focus on what God is doing in your life. You're watching their highlight reel thinking you should be further along. but you don't see their process. You don't see their discipline. You don't see the nights they spent crying, the times they wanted to quit, the years they spent grinding before they ever saw a result. All you see is the outcome. And now you're discouraged because you're measuring your beginning against someone else's middle. Stop it. Focus on your assignment. Master your season. Because what God has for you has nothing to do with what he's doing for somebody else. You don't have to chase opportunities when you're prepared for them. When you're truly ready, the right doors will open, the right people will come, the right opportunities will show up. But you have to be ready. And let me say this. Some of you think you're waiting on God, but you're really just avoiding work. You're sitting around talking about, I'm just waiting on God to move. No, he's waiting on you to move. He's waiting on you to be faithful where you are. You want him to bless something, but you haven't put in the work. You haven't built the discipline. You haven't cultivated the habits that will sustain what you're asking for. And you're sitting here thinking God is silent, but he already gave you the answer. Be faithful over little, and he will make you ruler over much. You don't get to skip the process. You don't get to bypass the hard work. Everybody wants the promise, but nobody wants the preparation. Everybody wants the rewards, but nobody wants the refinement. But you don't get one without the other. Look at Joseph. He had a dream, but before he could step into it, he had to go through the pit, the prison, and the process. He had to learn humility. He had to learn patience. He had to develop the kind of character that wouldn't crumble under the weight of the blessing. Because a blessing too soon is not a blessing, it's a burden. And some of you, listen to me, some of you are frustrated because you think God is holding out on you. You think he's punishing you. But what if he's protecting you? What if he knows that if he gave it to you now, it would crush you? What if he's waiting for you to grow into the person who can handle what you're asking for? This is where discipline comes in. Because discipline is not just about working hard. It's about working right. It's about building the kind of habits that prepare you for what you're asking for. It's about showing up with excellence even when no one is watching. It's about doing the work even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is what turns potential into power. Talent can only take you so far. Calling can only carry you so much. And if you don't have the discipline to match your dream, you'll never see it fully come to life. Because discipline is what sustains the calling. So here's the question. Are you going to do the work? Are you going to show up and be excellent where you are? Are you going to stop making excuses and start preparing like the next level is already yours? Because when you're truly ready, God doesn't have to force open doors. They open naturally. So stop waiting for the opportunity to come before you act like it's yours. Show up today like you're already walking in it. Master the level you're on. Build the discipline now, because the moment you prove you can handle it, that's the moment everything changes. You keep asking God to move, but you refuse to let go of what's holding you back. You want the new thing, but you're still clinging to the old. You're praying for the next level, but you won't release what's keeping you stuck. How can God pour new blessings into hands that are already full? How can he take you somewhere new when you refuse to leave where you are? You've got to let go. Some of you are dragging dead weight. You're carrying relationships that expired seasons ago. You're holding on to mindsets that no longer serve you. You're entertaining habits that are killing your growth. And you're wondering why you're not moving forward. Let me tell you, you can't fly if you're still chained to the past. You can't walk into your promise while dragging baggage that was never meant to go with you. At some point, you have to decide, do you want your future or do you want to stay comfortable? Because that's what it is. It's not that you don't know what to do. It's not that you don't hear God telling you to let it go. It's that you're comfortable. You're comfortable in dysfunction. You're comfortable in environments that no longer serve you. You're comfortable staying small because stepping into the unknown scares you. And I get it. Change is hard. Letting go is hard. But what's harder? Staying stuck in something that is slowly destroying you. Some of you are so afraid to walk away from what's familiar that you're suffocating your own destiny. You're praying for God to bring you peace, but you won't cut off the things that keep robbing you of it. You're praying for him to elevate you, but you're still surrounding yourself with people who don't even believe in your vision. How's that going to work? Listen to me. Everybody can't go where God is taking you. You keep trying to bring people into places they weren't assigned to. You keep trying to hold on to relationships that expired years ago, and you wonder why there's so much resistance, why things feel so heavy. It's because you were never meant to carry them with you. Some of you are dragging people into your future who are only meant to be part of your passing. You know it, you feel it, but instead of letting go, you're trying to fix it. You're trying to make it work. But let me tell you something. God is not going to bless a situation he told you to walk away from. You waiting on him to change something he already gave you the power to leave. And the crazy part, the moment you finally let go, the moment you release what's been holding you back, that's when everything starts shifting. That's when you finally start seeing movement. That's when the door is open. You've been praying, God, show me the way. And he's been saying, I did, but you won't move. You want to hear his voice, but you're ignoring what he already told you. Some of you are stuck in a cycle, not because God isn't speaking, but because you refuse to listen. You keep asking him for confirmation when he's already giving you conviction. You don't need another sign. You need obedience. And let's talk about the fear, because I know some of you are afraid to let go. You're afraid that if you leave, you'll be alone. You're afraid that if you walk away, you won't find anything better. That's the enemy lying to you. He wants you to believe that if you let go, you'll lose. But listen to me, obedience never leads to loss. God is not taking something away to leave you empty. He's removing what's weighing you down so you can finally walk in what he has for you. But you've got to trust him. You've got to trust that he knows what he's doing. You've got to stop acting like you know better than the one who created you. You're holding on to things that God is trying to remove. And the longer you hold on, the longer you delay what's already yours. Let me ask you something. What's the price of staying where you are? What's the cost of refusing to let go? Because every day you choose to stay attached to something that's not for you, you're delaying your destiny. Every day you keep that toxic relationship. Every day you stay in that dead-end job you know God told you to leave. Every day you keep that habit that's draining you. You're making a choice. You're choosing comfort over calling. You're choosing fear over faith. You're choosing the past over the future. But what if you chose differently? What if you finally trusted God? What if you finally said, God, I don't know what's next, but I trust you enough to let go? What if you finally walked away from what's keeping you stuck? What would your life look like then? Because here's the thing. You can't keep asking for new while holding on to old. You want new opportunities, but you won't release old habits. You want new relationships, but you won't release toxic ones. You want new doors to open, but you won't release the ones God already closed. At some point, you have to decide, do you want what's comfortable or do you want what's called? Because you can't have both. You can't stay the same and expect to grow. You can't keep holding on and expect to move forward. And let me say this, you don't have forever to decide. Some of you think you can just keep waiting, that you can just keep putting it off. But let me tell you something. Time is not waiting for you. Purpose is not waiting for you. The longer you take to obey, the more opportunities you miss. The longer you delay, the more you allow fear to dictate your life. God is calling you now. The shift is happening now. The opportunity is waiting now. But you have to let go. You have to stop trying to control everything. You have to stop holding on to things that are already over, because what's ahead of you is so much greater than what's behind you. So this is it. No more waiting. No more excuses. No more dragging what's dead into your future. It's time to let go and step into everything God has for you right now. You keep saying you trust God, but the moment things don't go your way, you panic. The moment it gets hard, you start questioning whether he's really with you. You start doubting the plan. You start looking for shortcuts. But trust doesn't mean you only believe when it's easy. Trust doesn't mean you only stay faithful when things go the way you expect it. Trust means you keep moving forward even when you can't see how it's going to work out. It means you stay planted even when everything around you is shaking. It means you stop trying to force things to happen in your own strength and start believing that if God said it, he will bring it to pass. But see, this is where most people mess up. The moment it gets uncomfortable, they start trying to take matters into their own hands. They start looking for another way because they think God is taking too long. They start questioning whether they even heard him right. And before they know it, they're off track, moving in their own direction, making decisions out of fear instead of faith. That's exactly what happened to the Israelites. God took them out of Egypt, set them free, gave them a promise, and told them he was taking them to the promised land. But the moment they hit a rough patch, the moment they faced an obstacle, they started complaining. They started doubting. They even said, maybe we should just go back to Egypt. Do you hear that? They were willing to go back to slavery because they didn't trust God enough to take them through the process. And that's exactly what some of you are doing. You're asking God for a breakthrough, but the moment it gets tough, you're running back to what's comfortable. You're asking him to take you higher, but the second you feel resistance, you start looking for an escape. Let me tell you something. Your faith can't just be for the easy moments. Faith isn't tested when everything is going smooth. Faith is tested when everything looks like it's falling apart. That's when you find out what you really believe. And let's be real. You say you trust God, but are you really living like you do? Are you trusting him in your finances? Or are you still holding on so tight that he can't bless you? Are you trusting him with your dreams? Or are you still trying to control every little detail? Are you trusting him with your future? Or are you still leaning on your own understanding? Because trust isn't just something you say. It's something you do. It's how you live. It's the choices you make. It's how you respond when things don't go your way. Some of you are in a waiting season right now, and it's frustrating. You feel stuck. You feel like nothing is moving. You feel like you've been faithful, but you're not seeing the result. And you're tired. You're wondering, God, did I miss it? Did I do something wrong? But what if I told you this isn't punishment? It's preparation. What if I told you God hasn't forgotten about you? He's just making sure you're ready. Because listen, if he gave you everything you're asking for right now, would you even be able to handle it? Would you have the character to keep it? Would you have the maturity to steward it well? See, that's the thing about trust. It requires patience. It requires you to believe even when you don't understand. It requires you to surrender your timeline, your expectations, your need to control everything and say, God, I trust you even when it doesn't make sense. That's what faith looks like. It's standing firm when everything in you wants to run. It's believing when your circumstances are screaming the opposite. It's saying, God, I may not see it yet, but I know you're working. Some of you have been praying for a miracle, but your actions don't match your faith. You say you believe, but you're still moving in fear. You're still hesitating. You're still second guessing what God already told you. But trust means stepping out even when you don't have all the details. Trust means you start moving before you see the provision. Trust means you walk like it's already done because you know the one who promised is faithful. Think about Peter when Jesus called him to step out of the boat. The moment Peter kept his eyes on Jesus, he walked on water. But the second he started looking at the wind, the second he started focusing on how impossible it looked, he sank. And that's what happens to some of you. God is calling you higher, but instead of focusing on him, you're focusing on the storm. Instead of walking in faith, you're walking in fear. Instead of trusting, you're doubting. And every time you do that, you sink. But here's the good news. God never lets you drown. Even when Peter started sinking, Jesus grabbed him. And that's what he does for us. Even when we stumble, even when we fall, he never leaves us. But the question is, how long are you going to keep doubting? How long are you going to keep hesitating? How long are you going to let fear stop you from stepping into everything God has for you? You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know every step. You just have to trust. Trust that if God brought you this far, he's not going to leave you now. Trust that even if the journey looks different than you expected, his plan is still better than yours. Trust that every delay, every closed door, every setback was actually a setup for something greater. But here's the thing. Trust isn't passive. Trust doesn't mean you just sit back and wait. Faith requires action. You have to start moving like you believe. You have to start talking like you believe. You have to start preparing like you believe. Because when you really trust God, it changes how you live. You stop worrying. You stop stressing. You stop chasing things he never called you to. You start walking in confidence because you know you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And I need you to hear this. God is not late. He's not behind schedule. He hasn't forgotten about you. He sees you. He knows exactly what he's doing. And if you can just hold on, if you can just keep believing, if you can just keep trusting, you will see why he had you wait. You will see why certain doors had to close. You will see why he took you the long way. And when you look back, you'll realize that every step, every delay, every trial was actually setting you up for something greater than you could have ever imagined. So stop doubting, stop hesitating, stop looking at your situation and start looking at your Savior. Because the moment you decide to really trust him, that's the moment everything shifts. You keep saying you're waiting on God, but the truth is God is waiting on you. You sitting there praying, asking for a sign, asking for another confirmation, asking for God to open a door. But the reality is the door is already open. The problem is you're too afraid to walk through it. You're too stuck in your own doubt, your own fear, your own excuses. And because of that, you're sitting on gifts, you're sitting on opportunities, you're sitting on a calling that God has already given you. How long are you going to wait? How long are you going to sit there and talk about what you're going to do one day? How long are you going to waste time waiting for perfect conditions? Because let me tell you something. There is no perfect time. There is no moment where everything is going to be easy, where all the fear is going to disappear, where you're going to wake up one day and just feel 100% ready. If you're waiting for that moment, you're going to be waiting forever. At some point, you have to make a decision. At some point, you have to say, God, I don't have all the answers, but I trust you enough to take the first step. Because that's what faith is. Faith isn't sitting still, waiting for everything to line up perfectly. Faith is moving even when you don't see the whole picture. Faith is stepping out even when it doesn't make sense. Faith is believing that if God gave you the vision, he will provide the provision. But see, this is where a lot of people miss it. They pray for an opportunity, but when the opportunity comes, they shrink back. They pray for a breakthrough, but when it's time to do the work, they hesitate. They want God to show up, but they don't want to step up. And the truth is, God moves when you move. He's already given you what you need, but you have to be willing to use it. Think about the story of Moses. When God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, Moses had every excuse in the book. He said, God, I'm not a good speaker. And he said, God, what if they don't believe me? He was standing in front of the greatest calling of his life. And instead of stepping into it, he started listing all the reasons why he wasn't qualified. And you know what God said? What's in your hand? That's the question I want to ask you today. What's in your hand? What do you already have that you're not using? What gifts, what talents, what resources, what opportunities has God already given you, but you keep making excuses? Because here's the thing, God will never ask you for what you don't have. He's not looking for you to be perfect. He's not looking for you to have everything figured out. He's looking for you to take what's already in your hand and start moving. Some of you are asking God for more, but you haven't even been faithful with what you already had. You're asking for a bigger opportunity, but you won't maximize the one that's right in front of you. You're asking for greater influence, but you're not showing up consistently where you are right now. Why would God give you more when you're not even stewarding what you've got? The Bible says, to whom much is given, much is required. You want the blessing, but are you willing to handle the responsibility that comes with it? Because let's be real. It's easy to talk about what you want. It's easy to dream, to plan, to get excited about the vision. But at some point, you have to stop talking about it and start doing it. At some point, you have to get up and move. You keep asking for courage, but courage doesn't come before the action. It comes after. You don't feel brave first and then step out. You step out even when you're scared. And that's when courage kicks in. That's when faith grows. That's when you start to realize that fear doesn't have the power you thought it did. And I know what you're thinking. But what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? What if I step out and I fall flat on my face? But let me ask you this. What if you succeed? What if this is the thing that changes your entire life? What if the opportunity you've been praying for is on the other side of your obedience? Failure is not the enemy. Fear is. Failure is part of the process. Failure is how you learn. Failure is how you grow. Some of you are so afraid of making a mistake that you're making the biggest mistake of all. Doing nothing. You're waiting for certainty, but certainty never comes. You're waiting for all the details, but faith doesn't work like that. Faith is stepping out, trusting that God will handle what you can't. Listen, you're running out of time. You don't have forever to get serious about your calling. You don't have forever to finally start that business, to write that book, to launch that ministry, to step into the thing you know God is calling you to do. Stop waiting. Stop overthinking. Stop second guessing. You already have what you need. You just have to decide to use it. Think about this. What if the thing you've been praying for is already in motion, but it's waiting on you? What if God has already set up the opportunities, but you're delaying them because you refuse to take the first step? What if you're asking for a sign and the sign is your own desire to do it? Community, you don't need another confirmation. You don't need another prophecy. You don't need another sermon telling you what you already know. You need action. You need to move. You need to step into what God has been calling you to do, because the longer you wait, the more you delay your purpose. The longer you wait, the more time you waste on things that don't even matter. And here's the scary part. If you keep sitting on your calling, God will give it to someone else. If you won't move, if you won't obey, if you won't step up, he will raise up someone who will, because God's plan is too big to be held up by your fear. His purpose is too great to be delayed by your excuses. So what are you going to do? Are you going to keep waiting, keep hesitating, keep wondering what could have been? Or are you going to finally step into what you were created to do, because the time is now? The opportunity is now. The door is open, but only you can walk through it. You keep saying you want everything God has for you, but the truth is you're not acting like it. You say you want to walk in his plan, but when he starts leading you in a direction that doesn't match your comfort zone, you resist. You say you want his best, but when he asks you to let go of something, to surrender something, to give up what's been holding you back, you hesitate. You hold on to the very things that are keeping you from the breakthrough you've been praying for. And this is the reason so many people never step into their full potential. It's not that they don't have the talent. It's not that they don't have the opportunity. It's not even that they don't have the favor of God on their life. It's because they refuse to let go of what's no longer serving them. They refuse to release what God has been trying to take out of their hands. And as long as you keep clinging to the past, as long as you keep holding on to things that were never meant to go with you into your next season, you will stay stuck. You can't grab hold of what's next if your hands are still full of what's old. You can't step into a new level if you're still dragging old baggage behind you. Some of you are frustrated right now because it feels like you're doing all the right things, but you're not seeing progress. And maybe it's not because God isn't moving. Maybe it's because you won't let go of what's been weighing you down. Think about Abraham. God told him, leave your father's house and go to the land I will show you. God didn't even give him all the details. He just said, go. And Abraham had to make a decision. Was he going to trust God enough to leave behind what was familiar? Was he going to step into something new, even though he had no idea how it was going to turn out? Or was he going to stay in the same place, surrounded by the same people, living the same life because it felt safer? Some of you are in that exact place right now. God is calling you forward, but you're still looking back. God is trying to elevate you, but you're still clinging to the past. And you're wondering why you feel stuck, why you feel drained, why you feel like you're not making any progress. It's because you're carrying things you were never meant to carry. You're holding on to people that God told you to release. You're holding on to relationships that are draining you. You're holding on to mindsets that are keeping you small. And you keep asking God to bless you, but he's saying, I can't give you what's next if you won't let go of what's in your hands. And let's be real. Sometimes it's not just about letting go of people. Sometimes you have to let go of fear. You have to let go of doubt. You have to let go of that voice in your head that keeps telling you you're not enough. You have to let go of the past failures, the past disappointments, the past mistakes that keep replaying in your mind. Because the enemy will use your past against you if you let it. He will whisper in your ear. Remember the last time you tried? Remember the last time you failed? Remember what they said about you? And if you're not careful, you'll start believing those lies. You'll start shrinking back. You'll start playing small. But hear me, your past is not your prison. Your mistakes do not define you. What happened before does not determine what God can do next. The only way your past has power over you is if you keep holding on to it. So let me ask you, what do you need to let go of? What is it that's keeping you from moving forward? What is the thing that God has been asking you to release, but you keep pretending like you don't hear him? Because the longer you hold on, the longer you delay your own destiny. Some of you are trying to bring old habits into a new season. You're trying to bring old relationships into a new level. You're trying to bring old ways of thinking into a new calling. And God is saying you can't step into what I have for you if you keep holding on to what I already told you to leave behind. And I know it's hard, it's uncomfortable, it's scary to let go of something when you don't know what's coming next. But that's where trust comes in. That's where faith is built. Because sometimes God doesn't show you what's next until you have the courage to release what's now. Think about the disciples. When Jesus called them, they had to drop everything. They had to leave behind their old jobs, their old routines, their old way of life, and they had no idea what was coming next. But they knew who they were following. They didn't have all the details, but they had a word from Jesus, and that was enough. So what's it going to take for you? How long are you going to keep delaying what God has already confirmed? How long are you going to keep making excuses? How long are you going to let fear stop you from stepping into the future he has for you? At some point, you have to make a decision. At some point, you have to say enough is enough. I'm done holding on to what's been holding me back. At some point, you have to trust that God's plan is better than your comfort zone. Because hear me, God never asks you to let go of something unless he has something greater waiting for you. He never asks you to release something unless he's trying to put something better in your hands. But the question is, do you trust him enough to let go? Because if you don't, you'll spend your life stuck in the same cycles. You'll keep repeating the same patterns. You'll keep wondering why things aren't changing, why doors aren't opening, why you feel like you're going in circles. But the moment you decide to trust him, the moment you decide to let go of what's been holding you back, that's the moment everything shifts. That's the moment you start moving in the direction of your destiny. That's the moment you finally step into everything God has been waiting to give you. So stop delaying, stop hesitating, stop holding on to things that were never meant to go with you into this next season. Because God has something greater for you, but you'll only see it when you finally decide to let go.